Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. I'm still Cedric, coming to you from Antwerp, and today we are going to talk about another beer, of course, but also another anniversary beer. This is another cellar find, and I should have reviewed this last year, but hey, we can't drink them all, or at least we can't review them all. This is a beer, an anniversary beer, of a relatively young brewery. Even though their website states they have a very long history, they actually don't really. This is a beer from Brouwerij or Brewery Dilewyns. Brewery Dilewyns is currently located in Dendermonde, or as they say, Daremonde, the carnival capital of the world, or at least of Flanders. But the story started actually in Grembergen, and if you think you recognize that name, I said Grembergen with an E and not Grimbergen with an I. There is a 25-mile difference and also completely different town. Grembergen is a small town right next to Dendermonde, where they are located now, and this is where the actual story begins. According to the website of Brewery Dilewyns, the history begins in 1885, where Anne Coletta, the wife of a knight, has 7 children and starts a brewery. She leads the brewery. As she dies, the oldest son takes over, and in the First World War, so about 30 years later, all the copper is confiscated to make bullets. Very classic story. However, the website doesn't state anywhere how this connects to the present day. I can read between the lines that the founder of Dilewyn's brewery, Vincent, is a far descendant from Anne Coletta, but that's nowhere stated clearly or anything. So how about we just forget that part of the story and we jump to the next most recent part of their history, and that is 1999. So yeah, a serious more than 100-year difference. I think we can skip that gap. So in 1999, dental technician Vincent Dilewyn brews his first beer. He actually tried brewing, or he wanted to try brewing for a long time, and he followed some courses and he experimented a bit, and in 1999 the experimenting started. As many of us home brewers and hobby brewers, he started out with a triple. Now, he has experimented quite a bit, and in 2005 his brother, who is an author, asked him to brew a custom beer for the celebration of his first published book. At that moment, the Vicaris is born. Vicaris is the house brand of Brewery Dilewyns, and Vincent orders 1250 liters, so 12.5 hectoliter, to be brewed by the Proefbrouwerij in Lochristi, a recurring name on this channel. They had some beer left and they handed it out here and there, and demand was quite high, so a second brew was made. Now, somehow a few crates of this brew found their way to Zitos, the Flemish, or actually Belgian, Association of Beer Lovers. They have their own beer festival, Zitos Beer Festival, and they invited Vincent and his brewery to have a stand at the next festival in 2006. And there they won 2 awards already. Not only did they brew a second brew of the Vicaris, but they also experimented a bit further, and the General, and the Vicardin were also born. In 2008, Vincent decides to abandon his dental lab and to fully focus on the beer firm. Now, we do have a difference here in Flanders between a beer firm and a brewery. At this moment, in time, 2008, Vincent has a beer firm. And that actually means a brewery without their own brew house. So they develop and design their own recipes, but they don't brew in-house. There's a distinction. In 2010, after selling nearly 700 hectoliters of Vicaris, Vincent decided to buy an industrial site and he built his own brewery in there. They have a decent modern brew house and I believe 4 CCTs of 80 hectoliters capacity each, probably upgraded already because I'm talking about 2010 numbers right now. And it was inaugurated in the beginning of 2011. As is customary here in Belgium, in small towns, even the mayor of Dendermonde came to cut the ribbon. But this means that as of 2011, Vincent actually owns a brewery and no longer a beer firm. Is that better? Not really, I don't care. As long as you make good beer, I don't care where you brew it. As of then, Vincent also runs the brewery with his daughter Claire. Now, funny story, Dendermonde has a tradition every 10 years, I believe. They do the ommegang, which you might recognize from Brewery Ommegang or Brewery Ommegang. Has nothing to do with both of them, or with either of them. But they actually follow a legend where the 4 heemskinderen, 4 children, are sat on a horse, a huge wooden horse, and they make a tour around the town. These 4 children have to be 4 sons, 4 boys, following each other, so no sisters in between, from the same family. Vincent, however, having 4 daughters and no sons, he proposed, why not use my daughters for the next one? Unfortunately, this was declined, but Vincent still is the main event sponsor and he brews even a special Ros Bijaard, named after the horse, a beer, which is a oaked version of one of their specialty beers. And this is as well, by the way, not an oaked version, but this is a specialty beer. But we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So he still brewed the beer, and on the label there's a stylized horse with 4 children dressed as knights on it. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I do believe that on that label there are 2 blue and 2 pink children. Also, the logo on this bottle here in the neck, the Vicaris logo, is a staggering horse with 4 children on it. But they're 4 girls. He never changed that logo back. So hey, Vincent doesn't care either. Currently, their capacity is about 25 hectoliters per brew, so that's quite a kettle, 2.5 cubic meters. And they brew about 15,000 hectoliters a year, which is not small. Their regular range includes 6 beers currently. That's not counting the specialty beers like Ros Bijaard or the Lustrum that we're gonna taste today. And amongst those 6, there's the general, there's their triple, there's a blonde, but there is also a winter beer, and they also have the triple Geus since 2016. And the triple Geus is quite a special beer. It is in fact a blend of their triple blended with lambic, and they describe it as brewed by a well-known lambic brewer from the Zenne Valley, but through some searching and listening, I found out that it's not just any old lambic brewer, it's motherfucking Frank Bon. It's the lambic god of Belgium. So yeah, they blend lambic from Bon with their triple, and it is available only limited from, I believe, May to September, because they brew it in May and then they sell the whole stock, and it's always limited. Actually, also a funny thing, Vincent and Claire are convinced that to innovate you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to stay away from everything that everyone else does. So you can brew with classic ingredients and classic products as long as you do something very good with it and very new with it. For example, they brew a lot with flax. Now, when we talked about the Hoedendag last week, his brewery is built in an old flax shed. This is not the same neighborhood, but it's also the west of the country, and they used to grow a lot of flax, and Vincent and Claire even decided to use a field next to the brewery to grow their own flax, and they used that as an ingredient in their beer. And about that, Vincent once said, I don't care, for all I care they can have the recipe, it's the way you brew it that determines the taste. He said the same thing about the Heus, the triple Heus, and he's actually right. There are many recipes to be found online, and I can assure you, if I brew one, and my father brews the same one, and my brother does, and my best friend does, we have 4 very different beers. Because it's the way you brew that also determines a lot. That being said, about this beer. First off, look at that beautiful printed bottle. The name is Lustrum, and it's not their first Lustrum. They've already brewed one in 2010. This is the 2020 version. But they've already brewed one in 2010 for the 5-year anniversary of Vicaris, and probably to celebrate that they were opening a brewery. This is the 15-year version to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Vicaris and also the 10-year anniversary of the brewery. Lustrum got its name from the Latin lustrum, and it has a double meaning. It's sort of a ceremonial purification of the people that occurred every 5 years back in the old Roman Empire. However, it's also used as just a period of 5 years, and I believe they use it like that because they brew one per 5 years. If you look at the bottle, these lovely blue-purple-ish flowers around here, those are flax flowers. And if I'm not mistaken, this beer is also brewed with flax seeds. So I'm very curious about that. It is, by the way, the very first beer in the world made with flax or flax seeds. And even though we have in West Flanders a beer called Vlasbier, flax beer, that's only a registered name, and they don't use flax in the preparation of the beer. So this is the first beer in the world that actually uses flax as an ingredient. What else can I tell you about this? Maybe a minor detail. Everyone does know flax, but not everyone knows they know flax. For example, Sleeping Beauty, the old fairy tale, in the original, or the oldest version, she actually doesn't cut her finger on a spinning wheel, she cuts her finger on a thread of flax. And she used to spin with flax. It was a very common weaving material, so not that far-fetched either. That on a completely different note. This beer has as ingredients malted barley, American hops if I'm not mistaken, homegrown flax, and some spices, next to the yeast, sugar and water of course. So I am very curious about this. Now let's watch this bottle. It says since 2015, so Brewery Dilewyns, Vicaris since 2015, the Lustrum Vicaris 15 years. With flax homegrown, from own cultivation, pure, familial and authentic. It is a 6.5% blonde beer, and it was only bottled in these 75 centiliter bottles. So I hope it's a great beer, because otherwise I'm stuck with 75 centiliters of crap. Vicaris Lustrum is brewed to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Vicaris beers and the 10th anniversary of the brewery in Dendermonde. This bright golden beer combines the craft of brewing and the craft of flax processing. The result is a well-balanced and easy drinkable beer with a thick foam head. The rich aroma contains a touch of flax, and the American hops complete the citrusy aroma, which is also responsible for a refined and soft bitterness. So I'm guessing citra hops. Beer of high fermentation with secondary fermentation in the bottle, unfiltered and unpasteurized. And that is actually a trend at Dilewyns, because they don't filter or pasteurize any of their beers. This beer, for example, was brewed, fermented, lagered, bottled, re-fermented for 2 weeks in the bottle, and then laid to rest for 2 months before selling. Let's have a taste. I was just thinking that this lovely beer bottle would make a nice addition to my collection of beer bottles with candles. So we just had another slight gushing incident. In the bottle it smells very light, malty, a bit floral, but mainly very thin. Now of course this is quite a cold beer, so aroma doesn't evaporate that much, although I did see a lot of vapor when I opened the bottle, when I uncorked it. And yeah, of course the gushing shows something as well. In the glass it's a lot maltier, it's a bit boozier, even though it's only a 6.5%. I do get some carbon dioxide and alcohol mixture in the nose. And again quite thin, so indeed a lovely golden blonde color, quite clear. Some yeast came along, but that is of course because I had to act quickly and I actually shook up the whole bottle, so yeah, I'm gonna have to lay that to rest. Let's put on a cap here just to make sure. Slightly sweet, soft and floral as well. Some lovely white foam, by the way. Very, very white. Okay. At first glance, not that special. Rather malty. It's like a very malty and heavily carbonated Pilsner. Or maybe a Kolsch, if you will. I do get that soft bitterness, but honestly I do not distinguish any citrusy notes in this beer. I do get the floral component, and that will probably be the responsibility of the flax seeds in here. But I don't really get a very hoppy flavor or anything, so I don't know. And I have read online that opinions are very, very diverse on this beer, so yeah, not entirely sure. Because I'll have to taste a bit more. Now, oh, I do get some citrusy notes, a bit of lemon zest, but more like in the back of the throat. Yeah, yeah, I do get it more in the aftertaste actually. That's interesting. The floral component is quite thin, even though the mouthfeel isn't thin, but that's the heavy carbonation that actually supplies us with a nice feeling in the mouth. And amuse-bouche, as we say. But honestly, I find not much special about this beer. It is a very lovely beer. It is actually a very clean and crisp beer. It is very thirst quenching. It is very refreshing. It's a good beer, but it's not all that special. Of course, it doesn't have to be all that special, and that's the beauty of it. So I don't know how to score this beer. It's good. It's not awesome. It's absolutely not bad. So I would score this as its ABV, namely 6.5. Maybe it's a bit less to my taste than I would like, but it is a very well made and a very nice, well-rounded beer. So yeah, 6.5, a 3.25 in Untapped, and another limited beer that we got to know, a lovely bottle to put a candle on. I'm a happy camper. I'll leave you guys with that. As usual, thank you so much for watching. I'm always happy to see people return and numbers grow. If you would find one of these, but they are very limited, pick one up and decide for yourselves. If you have any questions, any remarks, any stories you want to share, leave them down in the comments. And if you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you'll get notified whenever I upload something. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.